Welcome into another episode of Friends of FreightVana. Today I'm so excited about today's guest. I've got Taylor Swanson with us.
Hello.
Hello. So thank you for coming on, first of all.
Yes.
And I just wanted to start off with, I know you've been in the industry for a little while, before you came to FreightVana. Maybe just kind of talk a little bit about how long you've been in the industry, kind of how you worked with different sides of different operations, different accounts, different things like that. You don't have to name anybody or anything. And, just kind of talk about yourself a little bit. Kind of promote yourself a little bit.
So I've been in the industry just over 7 years. I kind of stumbled into transportation. I was working for a local police department as a 911 dispatcher. Yes.
Wow.
It's very demanding.
I bet. I didn't know that.
Yes. I was trying to, juggle working full time while also taking care of my then 2-year-old on my own. So
I will say that I can see you as a dispatcher because you are very, very good at being calm, cool, and collected. And I would feel like that job, like you have to be. Like you can't not be.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So I did that for 6 months. And when I decided it wasn't the right fit for me, I was like, oh, okay, well, what's next? Before that, I had done a lot of administrative roles. And so I thought, I guess I'll go back to working in collections as an administrative assistant. Done many different industries. And I was working with a gal at the police department who said, hey, you should look into transportation. I got a job working for a local company, and I think you'd be a great fit. And so I was like, sure, why not? I've never thought about working in transportation.
That's how a lot of us stumble into it.
Yes. So I applied, I had my interview, and they gave me a job offer on the spot. So that's how I got started. That was July of 2018.
Was it customer service? Was it operations?
Operations.
Okay.
Yes.
So right to the fire.
Woo! And then on top of that fire, they started me out on a weekend schedule.
Ooh.
I had no operations experience. I was so new. It was definitely sink or swim.
Yeah.
So I got about 4 hours of training on the weekends, and then they said, here's 130 trucks.
That's
Have fun.
Have fun. Retain, don't wreck them.
Yes. Yep. So I did that for about a year. So during I did about 4.5 years of operations and account management kind of combined before I strictly went to the account side. So while I was in operations, I ran trainers and trainees. I ran drivers new to the industry for their first 3 to 5 months. Mm-hmm. Then from there, I did dedicated, where I was the account manager and the dispatcher. So that was a lot of fun working with those guys.
At least you had a little more control.
Yeah. So I almost have predominantly worked with dry van.
Okay.
I've never worked in reefer, but then I went from working as a dispatcher in operations to the operations manager. Did that for a bit. And then ports decided they wanted me. So then I went over to the port side. So still have my TWIC card.
Yeah.
And I ran a dedicated account for the ports division for Port of San Diego.
That's got to be a pretty cool operation to see. I've ran trucks and things like that in and out of them. Never actually seen the operations, just like I've done rail, but I've never actually seen the rail operations. That's got to be pretty cool to.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, there's so many things you don't even think about when it comes to ports. And I got the opportunity to actually physically go on site and tour. That was a lot of fun, very stressful.
Oh, I bet.
Because we were
cranes
hauling
everywhere, and I bet.
Yeah, and it was a perishable account, so you can only imagine how many calls I've gotten. I tore the line. My generator's not working. I don't know what to do.
We can't release it.
Gate closes at 1600, and I'm going to get there at 1602. Oh gosh, yes. So then from there, I felt the culture at that company wasn't what it had been when I first started. Okay. And I was disappointed, because it was just going in a different direction than what I wanted to see for my long-term future. Mm-hmm. And so then, I started looking outside, what other opportunities are there? At this point, I've done pretty much, again, operations for the last 4.5 years. And everyone, had talked about FreightVana. It was, known
New
around.
and yeah.
Yes. And so, I reached out and I was like, you know what?
We got
Account
friends
management.
everywhere.
Yeah. I know account management. I know transportation. So, I reached out and Derek was very excited to hear from me. And so, just from there, bada boom, bada bing, and I've been here since September of 2022.
Okay, right on. So 3 years, yeah. We just celebrated your 3 year.
Yes.
We're lucky to have you on our team. You do a great job. One of the hardest things, best things that you probably do is you do so much manual entry that, I know you kind of passed off some of it now, but for the longest time you were probably doing the most out of anybody per week.
Oh yeah.
So that's just tough within itself. And then also making it successful on top of it just really, really proves how great you do at your job.
Thank you.
Well, of course. So back to your career, like throughout your career, was the operations mainly asset driven then, or did you do any of the brokerage, or was this brokerage kind of new to your?
Great question. I only did asset.
Okay.
I had no prior brokerage experience before coming to FreightVana.
Okay. So how was that transition? How did it feel to go from we own these trucks, we own these assets, and we're a little bit, we're light asset, but we don't own drivers, so we own these trucks, we own these assets, to, hey, I may not be able to have the driver or the truck today, or how was that transition for you?
It adds an interesting layer to the mix. I'm so used to having pretty much full transparency with where the truck is and all that. Now, granted, we do have MacroPoint and we have other programs that we work with that are great, but occasionally there are times where we can't track the truck and you have to hope, okay, can I get a hold of you? Are you giving me the right information? So that was, it's having that trust that your carrier that you're working with is a solid carrier. And thank goodness we have so many great carriers that we work with.
Our network is, our operations team has done a great job with building those relationships. And to your point, I would say when they added the tracking team to the daily stuff, that's really helped too, because everybody gets bogged down or busy or needing to cover X amount of loads and can't call or maybe can't reach somebody. And then we've got Jake Wake's team that just can dial and dial and dial. And so, but yeah, I would assume that it would be quite a different atmosphere and take some getting used to, going from I've done a little bit of both my whole career, so I've kind of known a little bit of both, but I would say if I didn't, it would take quite a bit of adjusting for me to get used to not having full control, to having little control, to then building the relationship to where you have full control back.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
yes. And to your point about, we don't have a truck and trailer, I came from a world where we had a planner, and that planner was responsible for a particular region. And so they, would work with the account managers to determine, okay, what is a hot load? What load can we maybe push back if we don't have capacity? We don't have that here, right? So
no fail service here. Let's go.
But we all work together really well to make sure that we're still all getting exactly what we need. It's just a different way of handling it. So it is interesting sometimes, like just the different dynamic.
Well, and the pillars that they had built this on, because you're like me, we didn't start with FreightVana. I came in 2 years in. You came in 3 years ago. So they were 1 year in when you came in. But the pillars that they've kind of based themselves off of, that we've based ourselves off of, is that trust, that transparency, and that technology. And through your transparency with your customers and through your relationships with your customers, I would think that you've learned, well, I know because I work with you, but just so everybody else that doesn't know, like, you've kind of learned how to, that's the best aspect, is just letting them know it's not going to happen today. but we can make it happen tomorrow.
Yes.
Or you know, just that transparency so that they do trust you, so that they will use you and continue to come back. Some of your accounts have grown more than some of the other accounts in the company. So it's I think your relationships, what you were kind of speaking about on how you work with operations to get things done seamlessly, really, I mean, it speaks in your work. So I think that's important to highlight, that you are transparent, you build those relationships. How do you feel like you are with the customers? Do you feel like you're given that freedom to kind of build your own relationships, build your career out, that kind of thing here?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm really big about honesty. That is like one of my biggest things. And so I'm always honest with them, you know, because at the end of the day, if you don't trust that what I'm telling you is the correct information, you know, why would you necessarily want to work with me long term? So I always make sure that I am just giving them realistic expectations, you know, and always trying to figure out where, you know, I can do better for them. You know, if it's, hey, we kind of see that this is, you know, a repeat thing. Okay, well, you know what? You're right. Let me go ahead and take a step back, see what we can do. And let me tell you, as I'm making these adjustments and these plans so that you can see in real time, I am actually providing the outcome that I promised I said I was going to provide. So yeah, I like to deliver on my promises.
That's been a running theme through a lot of these episodes, with Sophia, with when I was talking to Lindsay, is pivoting quick, being proactive, providing solutions. And I think that is important, what you just said, like to touch on in almost every episode, because that's our foundation. We want to provide those solutions quickly. If there's an issue, we want to pivot quickly. And our team does such a great job of that. Yeah. And then you guys also do such a great job. I just want to talk a little bit about how you specifically have created relationships internally with the different teams. It's really easy in this industry to get siloed out by divisions or by operations versus accounts. But you've done a really good job of kind of, I don't want to say getting what you want, but like building those relationships to produce great outcomes for your customers.
Yeah.
So what's been like some key ways that you've been able to kind of navigate that?
I think that the easiest way that I did I just made myself relatable to each of the people I'm working with in those different departments, right? I've worn the operations hat. I know what the struggle's like. I know what some of those answers sometimes sound like and the frustration. So I've tried to offer also transparency and, hey, this is like realistically how long it takes to get what you're asking for. Or, you know, someone tells me something, I am really big about not having negative assumptions.
Yep.
There's a saying, I won't say it on here because it's not appropriate, but, you know,
I get you.
Assume, we like to avoid assuming. And so I always just try to make sure that my team knows I am here for you. We're on the same team together. Let's work through this. I understand the frustration. Here, see it from my perspective so you can understand why we're in this current situation, but we're also going to work through the situation. And then when it comes to departments outside of operations and accounts, I've also been in situations where I had to do my own billing for my accounts. So I know what that looks like.
That's
and
tough.
So another thing that I just try to make sure that I do is get back to my teammates in a timely manner, right? Because if you're sending me a message and I'm not getting back to you right away, I'm not even acknowledging it, you're going to feel like I'm not respecting you and your role in the company. And that doesn't feel good, and that's not going to build a good foundation for, you know, that work relationship. So I just try to make sure, like, hey, you know, I acknowledge I can't do it maybe right now, but this is when I can, or when I can, always try and get it back right away. And that definitely has helped, because then people feel like, oh, when I come to her, I know she's going to get back to me. Or, you know, I know that she knows the urgency needed here to make sure that I can keep my wheels rolling in my own department.
Well, and it probably has an adverse effect of you probably will get some help a little quicker too, right? So it's symbiotic there. to people like that might be watching that might be struggling with that type of push and pull, would you suggest that they maybe, I mean, I know obviously open dialogue was what you're talking about, just having the conversations, making sure you're understanding, trying to be open, maybe sitting with them, maybe having them sit with having their counterpart sit with them. Like, do you think that cross training helps? Do you think any type of dialogue helps? Or do you just think that really just it takes time to build relationships and that trust and that respect? Like, how do you...
I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
Right? Because a good, solid relationship with your coworkers, it does usually take time. And that's just like the natural flow of things. It's organic. But also doing the cross training really does help kind of fast track that. Because if you can physically see what they're going through and their struggles and everything, it should help you self-reflect and go, oh, I see where I can make a difference for them. And then usually that should lead to, I mean, that relationship just getting that much stronger.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, I bring all of this up because you are one of our key Culture Club members. So I do want to talk about that a little bit. Outside of the office, you guys have done all sorts of events. You do events monthly. We've got Sherry, we were just talking to her. She was talking about the puzzle on the table, this little chill space. We've got the Halloween decorations. You were just doing some decorations just in our meeting a minute ago. Like, just kind of talk to us about why you thought it was important to really create. I know you didn't solely create the club, but you were very fundamental in that. Mm-hmm. So what do you feel like the importance in having that is, and, you know, highlight some things about it and about how you've seen change come from it?
Yeah, so, you know, for the longest time, I was just another body at my desk. You know, I kind of kept to myself. I'm a very reserved person and I'm an introvert. But then it kind of came to a point where I always tell people, listen, you and I both have a job to do. Why don't we just try to help each other so that we have the best day possible? Because I'm spending my entire work week with you. You know, that's 8+ hours a day that I'm spending with you. I want to make it enjoyable. I want to laugh. I want to smile. I want to feel positive when I come into work. And so for me, I just looked around and I looked for different ways that I could help kind of add to that, you know. So one thing being recognizing someone's birthday. It makes you feel really good when someone goes, oh my God, they took time out of their day to recognize this, you know.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel warm and fuzzy.
And special.
Yeah, and you should feel special. It's your birthday.
Exactly.
So that was a big thing. And then as far as like the decorations, I'm very eclectic. Oh my gosh, if you go into my apartment, I have just about anything and everything. I love adding things to make it feel more personal. I want it to feel like, okay, people actually reside here and they're, you know, spending their time here. And it's just, to me, it's very inviting to have different things up, especially around, you know, different holidays and celebrations. So just, you know, you walk through and you're like, oh, I feel like it's fall right now, you know? So it just puts a smile on my face every morning when the elevator doors open and I get to see all the decorations. And so I feel as though the greater population within the office probably has, you know, similar.
I think it absolutely does. I think a lot of people just smile seeing it. It's fun. It's
the spirits.
We are in such a stressful job at times that it's fun to have childlike, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in like a fun way.
Yeah.
Like atmosphere type of things. Like when we do the bingo, which I won the first one, by the way, me and Soph did. But but like when we do the bingo, or when we do the chili cook-offs or the potato contest that you're gonna do, or I know last year we did some pumpkin carving. Like, it's just a fun way to get people like to get out of their box and engage with other people in the company that they may not engage with otherwise.
It's a total icebreaker. So I actually was just listening to something yesterday. I'd never heard this before, But years ago, Coca-Cola had installed these vending machines on campus, but you couldn't open the bottle. And people were really confused. They're like, why can't I open a bottle? Well, it turned out that two people had to have the same bottle, and then you put the tops together and open it. And the whole purpose was to help create those relationships amongst your peers.
Make them meet each other.
Yeah, and so it was, then people were meeting people they would have probably never initially spoken with. So the things like bingo, and all those, it really just helps everyone to come together and for you to like have these conversations that you wouldn't maybe necessarily normally have day to day, because yes, transportation's very stressful, especially peak season.
Right.
So it's really good to have something to break up the day, and you can kind of take like a reset. And then, I mean, gosh, who doesn't want to laugh, and joke around for a little bit?
And you always learn something that you would never learn about somebody, because you're talking about trucks all day long, or you're talking about drivers all day long, or you're talking about shipments all day long. You'd never know that they went to Rome 2 years ago, or they drive a truck, or, I mean, just little things that you just would never know. So, well, thank you so much for coming on today. Yes. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed learning more about you. It was very fun. I think you have a really, really cool background and a story just that really promotes hard work, dedication can really get you so far, but like great attitude and like being bought in and knowing, learning your craft is extremely like unique, I think, but very important, and it's made you very successful in what you do. We all see that. So so thank you so much for coming in.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Friends of FreightVana. Hope you have a great afternoon.
Bye.